Why, hello there. It's Saturday. There was a part of me this week that thought today was going to be Sunday. Yesterday, knowing full well it was Friday and I had things that I was doing, I had a cipher that I needed to do with the Rhyme Masters crew, which went well until I was passing out. Because I was rushing, because for some reason I thought that Saturday was going to be Sunday and that there was going to be a game at 10 in the morning until about 1 in the morning when I realized, wait a minute, it's Saturday. I still have like an entire day to sleep. So then today I've been up and about and all over the place. I want to talk about a few fun things that I think people love bitching about. But I want to try to bitch about it in a constructive way. Let's try to bring a bunch of ideas together. Before we really get into that, thank you so much for being here at First Kick Seahawks. Please like and subscribe. It really helped out the channel. Lately, we've been getting a lot more subscribers, a lot more people coming in and just chatting with me. I don't want to just necessarily talk Seahawks. I like to just talk football in general. I love football. But today we're going to cover not the Seahawks, even though we got a game coming up in less than 22 hours against the Titans. I want to talk about the games, how games are weighted now. I always talk about the weight of games, either on special teams or penalties, or how you finance a team. If you decide to put all your money into a quarterback, then where is the rest of the money going to be weighted on your roster? Are you going to put in your defense and keep it balanced? Or are you going to double down on your offense? What are you going to do with all of that? It's all about balance. And if you look at the football itself, I'll even give you an example. It's weighted weird. It has no particular way to stay balanced. It's a wobbly boy. And that's part of the beauty of football. Is that wobbly boy. You don't quite know what's going to happen. It's thrilling, right? Everything should be going right. The ball is kicking in that direction, and then suddenly it boinks back this way. Like, what the fuck was that? And then you go back and you take a look at all of the madness surrounding it with the 22 players involved. But it wasn't just the 222 players involved. It was the coaches involved. It was the equipment staff involved. It was the water people on the side. It's the cheering crew on the side. It's, the way that we invest in each player. There's so much that goes into it. And then we get to a Super Bowl where it's the peak of all this, and we're foaming at the mouth and we're all excited. And they throw a penalty. Which Super Bowl came to your mind? Because I got multiple in my brain right now. The most prevalent one recently is the Eagles Chiefs, where we're like, oh my god, this game is insane. So the Chiefs just come down and score, and now there's like this opportunity for the Eagles to come and have a comeback win for the Super Bowl at the end of the game or lose it all. Yes, let's fucking... There's a flag on the play. And now it's over. And technically, yes, it's a foul. But as anyone who's really known anything about laws and rules, they're only there when we say they are. And they're only acknowledged when we choose to acknowledge them, and they're only defined as we choose to define them. Meaning, we'll ask most offensive linemen and players, and they'll say, yeah, we hold all the time. will grab onto your jersey and will like to hold you like this and steer you around and not let you go, so that you can get to the rusher. But technically, holding is a penalty. And you'll see players all the time where they get flagged for something, and they'll go, well, technically it was. And they're agreeing, because if they disagree and create controversy, they can get penalized again. They don't make those rules. They don't decide really who gets penalized in a game and who doesn't get penalized in a game, and what plays will result in a penalty and what won't. And we even saw against the Eagles and the Seahawks one of those plays that resulted in an interception, I believe. Sirianni was upset because he was actually playing for a flag there, which defeats the purpose of the game. If you're playing for flags, you're a schmuck. You're dishonoring the game. It's just dishonorable play. And it gets to a conversation that's been had a lot, that's now coming to like a point with Tom Brady retiring. He recently said this. I'm going to make sure that my audio is good and everything is on. Everything should be on. He recently was talking to Stephen A. Smith about the mediocrity in the league. And there's this conversation about, well, the players aren't as good. I'm not saying Tom Brady said this, but it's some people are saying this. The players aren't as good as they used to be. They're not as bloodthirsty as they used to be, or blah, 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 blah. But it's a complex problem, because you can hit somebody and you can pick yourself up with a $43,000 fine just for running the football. Well, if you're a running back and you're supposed to run the ball 15 to 20 times a game in a heavy running game, and any time that you run the ball, you might get fined $43,000, but not flagged on the field. You might not want to play football a certain way anymore. It might result in a whole aspect of the game disappearing altogether, which I guess is the point of these penalties. Is we don't want that type of play in the game. But are they saying that they don't want this type of play in the game, or they don't want this type of rule in the game? They don't want this style of football in the game. And so it starts to become minced. So I'm going to continue this conversation by handing it off to Tom Brady, who I don't have live, clearly. But there was some comments left by Mr. TJ Houshmandzadeh of Seahawks fame, who you should remember and think what you want of him. I found his interests on the subject fascinating. We're going to jump through it a little bit. And then as we do, I want to talk about Breece Hall being fined for running into a defensive player while he had the ball, not being penalized. He was fined $43,000. I want to talk about Damontae Kaze being ejected for this hit on Michael Pittman. Kaze or Kazi? We will find out, because I have some thoughts that Rich Eisen can share with us. And then also, I can't believe I closed the tab. There was also a nice little statement from the NFL player ops on what negates a roughing the passer penalty. And all of these things will accumulate together to hopefully show us what the NFL wants the NFL to become. 'Cause that's kind of in the situation we're in right now. I'm scrolling. I'm sorry. Here, how about this? I'm gonna hand it off to Monsieur Tom Brady, who the screen is not reading. Interesting. I tried doing things in a different way. I want to make it look nice for you guys. I was on a roll. Window capture. Studio. There. Now it should work. We are gonna do this.
Mediocrity in today's NFL. Yeah. I don't see the excellence that I saw in the past.
Why not? Why not?
I think the coaching isn't as good as it was. I don't think the development of young players is as good as it was. The rules have allowed a lot of bad habits to get into the actual performance of the game. Mm-hmm. So I just think the product, in my opinion, is less than what it's been.
I don't want to be.
This better not be no fucking commercial.
Because I'm an old guy, but I look good to be old.
I think what goes on is that when I'm trying to stream at this higher quality, maybe with OBS becomes a problem.
Oh God. At least in my eyes, that's all that matters. I don't want to be that guy that criticizes the game and the players. Once I'm done, they're faster, they're stronger. To me, the athletes are way better, and they continue to get better year after year after year after year. And so I wouldn't say the game is becoming less than, or it's a mediocre game. The rules have changed.
Yes. And this is my point of the conversation that I wanted to bring up from Houshmandzadeh, is the problem that the players are facing right now, and that I think a lot of us football purists are facing right now, is the game is literally different. It is literally changing. And so we'll see a team like the Rams throw these routes to Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp over and over again, where back in the day, if Tom Brady threw those routes, his players would be decapitated and they would be knocked out for the season. Where now that's not the case. So it's not necessarily a matter. He's arguing that they're maybe more athletic and stuff, and I believe they are, because of the way that training and knowledge is being passed and the way that diet education is being encouraged. But there's this tendency to think that the players are softer now. They're not softer, and they're picking up bad behaviors, yes, but you can't really call them bad behaviors anymore, because the NFL is encouraging these bad behaviors. They want the game to go in this direction.
Changed. And I don't like it all the time. Like, I didn't think that was roughing the passer on Mahomes, but they called it. You have to adapt. Brady may see some, but I know this. The quarterbacks are to me, are better than they've ever been. These dudes are coming into...
These dudes are super fucking accurate. They're crazy accurate. And they have, going into college, they already know verbally a bunch of terms. Right? You remember when growing up, you're like, what's this thing, a cell phone? And then you figured it out in a computer, and you're like, this is cool, and you were showing it to your parents. And then the generation that grew up after us, they just kind of understood everything that we learned growing up, that we taught everyone else around us. Yeah, these kids just know football. It's in their blood. They breathe it. And they got the best education possible to craft these quarterbacks. And so these passers that are coming out right now are super smart, especially compared to what passers had to do back then. Just go out there and run and shoot. Yeah, that was a shot fired.
To the league, when have we seen
He couldn't read formations. Brett Favre couldn't read formations.
a rookie do what C.J. Stroud is doing? We've never seen it. I mean, what Andrew Luck and even maybe Dak Prescott. But Dak Prescott was on a good Cowboys team. C.J. Stroud was on a team that picked number 2 for a reason. And so it's just him and Andrew Luck. And so I wouldn't say it's mediocrity in the NFL. I just think times have changed, and it's always going to look different to the generation that played before because the rules are just different.
I think the coaching isn't as good as it was. I don't think the development of young players is as good as it was.
Guys that I train,
I think
I tell them.
Before he gets into it, I think there's so much that needs to be coached in so little time. And especially with the increased contract CBA deals that give players options to back out of OTAs and not do multiple practices in a row and stuff. They don't have as many opportunities to get on-field coaching that they would have in the past. That being said, I think there's something to they need to get coached better in college, because when you get to the pros, yeah, you'll have NFL pro coaches, but it's mostly about how to take all these amazing players and use all of them. Where in college you have a couple amazing players per team and you have a bunch of runts trying to fill up the roster. In the NFL, everyone is fucking good. So there's more mind into it than pure athleticism. And so when it comes to coaching, if you get these kids that are entering your football team and they don't know how to play football in the NFL, that's less of a coaching problem. That's more of a scouting problem. And that's also like whatever colleges your scouting farms are always committed to working with. If they're working with schools that aren't committed to building certain types of behaviors, then when they enter the NFL, these behaviors won't translate. So if you come from a passing school that's air raid, it's not going to translate compared to a system that runs West Coast. You can learn how to do other things if you can get the foot pattern and timing down. Like, right, you can go out there and you can run verticals all the time, but if you don't run West Coast, you'll be in a similar problem. So it's something that you expect these people to learn in their early 20s, and then you want them to perfect in the NFL. I already know what this guy is about. If you're drafting I want to coach this guy, go back to college. If you want to be a teacher, go back to college. The purpose of teachers on the on the football field are the quality control, and then you have the players on the roster. It's their team. Lane Johnson, I am teaching you how to be a pro because this is our team together. And a lot of that is also like these players need to teach themselves. So unless the players want to negotiate in a CBA, that there are going to be coaches teaching them how to play the sport they were drafted to already play, then I don't know what to tell you. They are supposed to teach and teach them how to use their hands better in different formations and progress them. But what's happening is you're getting these coaches like Tom Cable. I know this has been a while now, but I like to kick this dead horse, who say that they're not even offensive linemen aren't even learning footwork in college. So why bother drafting them? Just get the most athletic guys you can and put them on the offensive line. And then here we are in 2023, soon to be 2024. And you know what position group the NFL is still really scarce in? The offensive line. It's terrible coaching. So you can't necessarily blame the NFL for that if it's an NFL-wide problem. Where are you getting your meat from? And then how are the rules allowing that meat to survive? All right, Mr. Manzada.
When you get to the league, your coach is going to tell you this doesn't work. When you get to the league, your coach is going to tell you some shit that doesn't make sense. You got to look at him and say, I got you, and do what I taught you. Like, don't argue with him. Just be like, yeah, you're right. But you can't listen to him. And it sucks to say that. The majority of the coaches in the league.
Let's say this again. Because at first blink, you're going to say, well, that sounds insulting that you're going to ignore your coaches. But I want you to really think about this for one more second.
The coaching isn't as good as it was. I don't think the development of young players is as good as it was.
Guys that I train, I tell them.
Cause he's about to exactly make my point. Listen to this.
When you get to the league, your coach is going to tell you this doesn't work. When you get to the league, your coach is going to tell you some shit that doesn't make sense. You got to look at him and say, I got you, and do what I taught you. Like, don't argue with him. Just be like, yeah, you're right. But you can't listen to him. And it sucks to say that. The majority of the coaches in the league, they'll teach you football. They'll teach you the game of football.
Yes.
But getting you better individually, that's not going to happen.
It's not their job.
I don't know why that's the case. Specifically the receiver position, man, it might be guys that in the NFL that's really going to teach you how to get open. Outside of that, you got to get that on your own. If you don't get that on your own, you're in trouble. Like, to this day, I'll have guys call me and send me video and be like, look, this is what the coach want me to do. And I say, go ahead and do that. You're going to get your ass locked up and you're going to get put on the bench. And when you're not playing, you think he going to say, well, I told him to do this. Nah, he ain't going to say that.
And this is part of why I love Pete Carroll so much. Because he doesn't want his players to come in and do what he tells them to do, play-wise says. He's like, how do you like to play? Cool. I'm going to make that work for you. And you say, well, it doesn't work. It made Russell Wilson's career. It made Russell Wilson's entire fucking career. Was that you get to play the way you want to play, dude. And that can have various effects. But when you look at an offensive line, time and time again, you look at Lane Johnson. I bring him up all the time because he's a part of a group called O-Line Masterminds. I believe it's called O-Line Masterminds. They teach football. They teach offensive linemen how to be offensive linemen. They teach tight ends who actually want to be offensive linemen, how to bulk up and be that. How to be the 6OL. What does it mean to kick slide? How do you move your feet? When he comes at you with this, what do you do there? Where do you put your hip when he does that? And you'll get some coaches that will come in and they're like, well, yeah, this is what I've been teaching forever. Now go chase the chicken around the yard, Rocky. And that'll only get you so fucking far. Eventually you need to be coached up by Apollo Creed. Which when you make it to the NFL, when you make it up to the heavyweights, you have your coaches, sure. They're there for quality control. They're there to be like, hey kid, don't catch with your body, catch with your fingertips. Remember, we'll throw you on the jugs if you need some guidance. Quality control. This type of route goes this way. This type of route goes that way. Communication and coaching for things like that. Let's keep everyone on board. But when it comes to how is somebody, a coach, going to come up to Calvin Johnson and be like, I'm going to tell you how to be a wide receiver? How's somebody going to come up to Jerry Rice and say, I'm going to teach you how to be a better wide receiver? You can do quality control and you could spar with him. But ultimately, the only person that can make Jerry Rice better is playing against a Deion Sanders. Somebody who understands what he's trying to do and can actually challenge him. And they can go back and forth and they can exchange knowledge together. Richard Sherman and Doug Baldwin. And when you're on an offensive line group, like O-line masterminds, what he wants to do, because there's this offensive line problem in college where they're not teaching footwork or communication or fucking anything like that in like half of college. He's like, I'm going to teach you how to stand, where to move your feet, how to move your hips, why those work together, where do you look, what happens with this guy. This is called a flush, and that's a pirate. That's what you need to be looking for. Look for the fire zone. But you need to be able to know what these things are instinctually at the heavyweight NFL level. And in order to be coached this stuff, you can't be coached by it by somebody who hasn't fucking done it. You need to be coached by somebody who is on the field with you, most likely. Because if you get coached by Ken Norton Jr. from the Cowboys of old on how to play linebacker in 2023, it's a completely different ball game. Because back then, if Ken Norton Jr. had somebody over the middle, he could and take them out of the football game. And then he would get it put on a highlight tape. Or now, if somebody runs up the middle and it's a 15-yard penalty, and he probably gets ejected out of the game. Not necessarily for playing dirty or for hitting high. And we're going to get to that later. Let's continue with Houshmandzadeh.
Yeah, he going to cover his ass. You just not getting open. That happens all. Rod Woodson is right. There's coaches in the NFL, again, they'll teach you coverage, fronts, what a team is doing to you schematically. But individually, how to get better, they just don't do it. For example, just talk receivers. How many former receivers that played, you didn't have to play in the NFL, just play in college, are receiver coaches in the league? They'll put a running back coach at receiver. They'll put a quarterback guy at receiver. They can't teach you how to get open. They don't know.
They do not know. You know who I want to learn routes from? Actually, better question. Would you rather learn how to run routes from myself or Jermaine Kearse? And you know me. You should know me by now. I don't hold Jermaine Kearse's route running ability and all that stuff in the highest regards. I'm using him as like a good B-level receiver. Your good number 3 or number 4 receiver, Jermaine Kearse. Good, solid NFL. Would you rather me teach you how to run routes? Or would you rather Jermaine Kearse teach you how to run routes? And a lot of these guys who are out there, they enter, well, I couldn't become an NFL player. So now I'm going to enter coaching because I love football. So you're teaching NFL players knowledge that it's an understudy teaching an overstudy. It's backwards. It's the student trying to teach. It reaches the point where the student is teaching the teacher how to play football. It doesn't make sense. And when you reach the NFL level, especially after your first couple rookie years, you should be the teacher. And everything else should just be quality control. And you're learning from all of the pros around you. You think LeBron James gets a bunch of stuff from his coaches? I mean, Kerr maybe gave him some love. Oh wait, Kerr's on a different team. You know what I'm getting at, right? Like, mostly what I understand is the teams are run by the players there.
But that's their job, is to teach you. So that happens all the time. You just know at receiver, they can't teach you how to get open. They don't know. But that's their job, is to teach you. So that happens all the time. You just have to get your training in the offseason. But I tell my guys all the time, if you go to this team, the coach is going to teach you. You go to this team, like you go to the Rams, good receiver coach. The Saints, when they had Curtis Johnson, good receiver coach. Keenan McCardle.
Where are you receiving your knowledge? And why are they giving it to you? That's why I spend so much time talking about the coaches before a game. And why, like, oh, this next game, prepare for the linebackers. And it was supposed to be Amani Hooker, but now he's out. Because they like to drop their safety, because their coach is a linebacker guy. And when you look at his staff, he hires linebacker guys that used to be safeties converting to linebackers. Think about, like, what type of players are coaching you, what type of coaches are teaching you, who are telling them how to coach you.
Good receiver coach. Sean Jefferson, good receiver coach. Trey Walters with the Bengals, good receiver coach. Reggie Wayne with the Colts, good receiver coach. It's slim pickings, man. It really is. It's really slim pickings when you like, who gonna teach me how to get better? You learn and get better in the offseason with your trainer, your private trainer, than you would during the season. And that's a fact. Every player will tell you what I just said is a fact. There's actually more now than it was when I was playing, and it's still not enough. It's still not enough. If you go through every NFL team, and don't even look at receivers, go to receivers and quarterback coaches, and these dudes ain't never ran a route or threw a ball in their life outside of messing around. But the offensive line, them dudes have played O-line. Defensive line, them dudes have played the D-line. It's just the quarterbacks and receivers. It's kind of crazy.
That's what's fucking up. And now it's fucking up. I just want to escape you. Why won't you let me escape you? There we go. Yes, I know, baby. It's so much stress to get anything working right on my computer. Okay. So, of course, this leads into a following conversation. I just want to make sure no one's in the chat right now. We're still good. Okay. I want to talk about this Breece Hall play. As we head out of this coaching conversation a bit more, and what teams teach you how to do and how you're supposed to behave, and who's supposed to teach you how to play. But Breece Hall, the halfback, penalized for this.
Nice tackle. He will not get there. Stopped about 4 yards shy by A.J. Terrell.
Knocks this guy down.
Terrell is down. He's the one that made that big hit.
And just, I want you to tell me why.
Oh, man. He looks like he...
Because he's higher than the player. The runner goes, the tackler goes low on him. See how low this man gets? Ready to just take him out by the waist. Doesn't look like it's necessarily going to be a hawk tackle. Maybe he's trying to protect his arm there. He just wants to get down and hit him, right? And when a running back is coming at you, oftentimes they close up, right? They get into ramming mode. They're going to truck you. And so he does. And as my... so he does. And there it is. And as you see, the forehead, like the right forehead of the helmet, hits the back of this dude's helmet. And it's because he goes low to try to make contact. Meanwhile, he's trying to drop. And it's one of those things where no flag was thrown, but he was fined $43,000. And this dude's on a rookie contract. And if you're a running back, this is like a typical play. Like you're taught, cover your head, get low, cover the ball, get low, and then hit the guy. Because he's going to try to tackle you. And so in this case, the guy's taught, get low, try to get up around the leg and arm. So they both do it because they're both taught to get low. Low man wins. And it's a bang-bang play. No one was leading with the crown or the helmet. There is something where, like, used to headbutt like a raging boar. And I never thought that was okay because I was worried about the spinal column of the runner. I mean, sure, yeah, you're wielding your helmet as a weapon too while you're doing that, but I would always think, dude, you're gonna break your damn neck. But for this one, what else is he supposed to do?
Oh man,
He hits him in the back shoulder. It puts him on the ground.
looks like he and Brees Hall, when he goes in to make the tackle,
I don't know.
Brees
And just, it feels bad.
Hall actually connects with the back.
And then we look at this DeMonte Casey ejection on Michael Pittman. This is the crazy one. Whose fault is this?
There's flags all over the place with the hit by Casey.
Oh, let's try that again. Do not play a commercial. It does. It does. Well, this dude is running a route, and the ball's in front of him, and he lunges outward, Superman style, like he's gonna catch a fucking sideline ball with his toes dragging. And so what happens when somebody tries to catch the ball? Well, there's somebody else called the safety coming in, and they're trying to prevent the pass from being hit, from being caught. They're getting their hand in there, or they're trying to catch the ball themselves, or they're there to meet the guy at the play and wrap up. But since this man threw himself, Superman style, towards the ball, he left him perfectly defenseless. And I want to give you a good example of what happened to this man. In my own dramatic fashion, of course. Here we go. We got this little... Here he is. Just fucking... It was game over. He went limp. He was flopping because he had left his feet. He was flying around like outstretched arms, like it was a sideline ball. You can do those because you know you're not about to get fucking popped. You're just about to get fucking popped by a defender. The hammer would have destroyed that man back in the day. And the hammer probably had weighed just as much. And then they throw a penalty on poor Kazi, and then now he's being suspended for the rest of the year for his hit on Pittman. And the hit's bad, right? Because he gets hit in the chest, which causes his head to bend backwards, which when he lands on the ground, he forms a nice little you know, a little horseshoe in the wrong direction. Your back is not supposed to spin that way. It was bad. But Tom Brady just mentioned this in the opening video I brought up. Do not put your players in a position on the field where they're going to get killed. And it's making players have bad behaviors, which led to Pittman getting hurt because he's lunging for that ball. So you're ejecting the defensive player for the offensive player having a bad behavior. You know what lesson used to be taught to offensive linemen, offensive players when they would do stupid shit back in the day that would get them hurt? They'd get hurt and be like, well, I'm not doing that again. And now defenders are like, well, there's this entire area of the field I can't tackle. I have to kind of like get around him, like grab him down, and he keeps getting extra yards. I can't just tackle this dude, because if I tackle him, I'm going to get penalized for hitting a defenseless receiver because they keep throwing directly in the defenseless receiver spots. All these great passing statistics that are coming out, a lot of them are because they're specifically targeting the area of the field where you used to get fucking popped. You used to get your bones shattered. Game over, boy. And your quarterback would know, I'm not throwing there, because if I throw there, I'm going to lose one of my friends. I'm going to lose one of my best players. So I'm not throwing it there. And there won't be a penalty. Not because it was a dirty play, but because why the fuck would you stop in front of a car? And when the dude jumps, flying Superman style, to catch that ball, it's no different than jumping in front of a bus. And he got hammered, and I hope he's okay. He's gonna have some whiplash, I'm sure. But it's like Chris Carson doing a flip over a Panther and then maybe having a knee injury later, tweaking it. Like, yeah, it's probably because you should be trying to flip over a 6'3" linebacker, landing on your feet and continuing to go. It's a I don't exactly know when he tweaked that knee that season. Don't do stupid shit on the field, and stupid shit won't happen to you. So you penalize the defensive player who's just making a play, and then the dude suddenly jumps in front of him. He's like, what the fuck is going on? When did this guy get here? And then you suspend him for the rest of the year, taking his money away, when it was the offensive players started it all. Hell, it might have even been the quarterback for being dumb enough to throw it. So I want to hear a little bit more about this rule. I'm choosing Rich Eisen because they used his voice on the NFL football operations video earlier this year when they were talking about collisions. I had it, and then I closed it earlier today, and I was gonna find it, but I kept yammering. But let's go ahead and hear what he has to. Let's hear. I'll let him speak.
Ball ops, John Runyon, former player, said that the rule states, just again, it's a foul if a player forcibly hits the defenseless player's head or neck area with the helmet, face mask, forearm, or shoulder.
We're doing this again. Can I lower the quality? We're going all the way down to the skim milk.
Even if the initial head or neck, just again, It's a foul if a player forcibly hits the defenseless player's head or neck area with the helmet, face mask, forearm, or shoulder, even if the initial contact is lower than the player's neck, and regardless of whether the defensive player also uses his arms to tackle the defenseless player by encircling or grasping him. The letter to KZ from Runyon said that you had an unobstructed path to your opponent and the illegal contact could have been avoided.
How? The dude jumped in front of a bus.
Your actions were flagrant, and as a result, you were disqualified from the game. I don't know if New York said throw him out based on what they were seeing immediately, because there wasn't like an other review. Like, they threw him out really pretty much on the spot. Yeah. So here's what I have to say.
Yeah. So and if you want to know what Rich Eisen had to say, you watch Rich Eisen's show. That's how it goes. I really like Rich. If you don't like Rich, there's something weird with you. But yeah, they're putting all of the blame on the defensive player. You're supposed to protect the guy you're trying to hit too. But the offensive player needs to also have he needs to protect himself. Like for the love of the football gods. I'm trying to find this NFL football operations video. It's the last one I want to show you. Oh, you know what? I retweeted it to myself, so I could probably easily find it if I just post it onto my stupid fucking channel. Here we go. If you do not follow them already on X, I recommend that you do. At NFL Football Ops, the official football operations from the NFL. I like to follow them for things like this. Earlier this year, they posted their statement on roughing the passer. Quote, because the act of passing often puts the quarterback or any other player attempting a pass in a position where he is particularly vulnerable to injury, special rules against roughing the passer apply. The referee has principal responsibility for enforcing these rules. Any physical acts against a player who is in a passing posture, i.e. before, during, or after a pass, which, in the referee's judgment, are unwarranted by the circumstances of the play, will be called as fouls. The ref will be guided by the following principles. A. Roughing will be called if the referee's A. Roughing will be called if, in the referee's judgment, a pass rusher clearly should have known that the ball had already left the passer's hand before contact was made. Pass rushers are responsible for being aware of the position of the ball in passing situations. Wait, what? Pass rushers are supposed to be aware of the position of the ball in passing situations? It's called a play action pass to sell play action who has the ball. There's a whole aspect of the game dedicated to making sure that the pass rusher doesn't know who has the ball. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Okay. Pass rushers are responsible for being aware of the position of the ball in passing situations. The referee will use the release of the ball from the passer's hand as his guideline that the passer is now fully protected. Once a pass has been released by a passer, a rushing defender may make direct contact with the passer only through the rusher's first step after such release, prior to the second step hitting the ground. Thereafter, the rusher must be making an attempt to avoid contact and must not continue to drive through or otherwise forcibly contact the passer. Incidental or inadvertent contact by a player who is easing up or being blocked into the passer will not be considered significant. But we've seen that all the time be called B. A rushing defender is prohibited from committing such intimidating and punishing acts as stuffing a passer into the ground or unnecessarily wrestling or driving him down after the passer has thrown the ball, even if the rusher makes his initial contact with the passer within the one-step limitation provided for in A above, what I stated before. So if the guy makes contact with this dude one step as the ball's being thrown out and then collides with him, well, he, quote, even if the rusher makes his initial contact with the pass rusher within the one-step limitation provided above, that still counts as stuffing the pass rusher in. It's prohibited. When tackling a passer who is in a defenseless posture, e.g., during or just after throwing a pass, notice this, during or just after throwing a pass, defenseless posture, as opposed to a rushing posture, keep these in mind. A defensive player must not unnecessarily or violently throw him down or land on top of him with or most of the defender's weight. Instead, the defensive player must strive to wrap up the player with the defensive player's arms and not land on the passer with all or most of his body weight. We got two more. I think it's two more. No, I'm not doing all of them. But let's get into this video now. This is the meat and potatoes. Also narrated by Rich Eisen.
Roughing the passer is any physical act against a passer before, during, or after a pass, which the referee judges to be unwarranted based on the circumstances of the play.
Based to be unwarranted based off of the circumstances of the play. So it's up to it's a judgment call. Okay.
Roughing the passer occurs.
So there's a hold right here. All right.
When a defender makes late or unnecessary direct contact with the passer or after the passer releases the football. Defenders may initiate contact no more than one step after the throw with the passer.
So see how the ball's out. He's got 1 foot there. Another step hit.
Contact with the passer after the passer.
It's a penalty that supposedly makes sense.
Defenders may initiate contact no more than one step after the throw in certain situations.
I can only control the speed.
A defender may not perform unnecessary or...
But if you look at this one, he's throwing it. He's got 1 step in. The ball's there.
May not
throws the ball, tiptoes,
perform
as he's wrapping up.
Unnecessary or punishing acts like,
and then that's considered driving the player down. So that's
into
a penalty.
The ground after the pass. The rule applies.
This is a penalty. The quarterback jumps up and throws the ball as he's being sacked to the ground, so that's a penalty.
Hit is
It's not his
late.
fault that he decided to jump up in the ground, therefore making him pendulum swing down heavily. So yeah, let's go ahead and blame this fucking defender for that.
It is a foul to forcibly contact the passer's head or neck area.
He was
or
going
to
for the
lead with
ball.
helmet when contact
Throat hits the guy. I can understand
any
that.
part of the
Yeah,
passer's
let's get
body.
rid of that. Yeah, let's get rid of that.
or to hit the knee area or below on a passer.
Definitely don't want to take out somebody's knees, right? You can hit them up there, but you don't, like, that's
Even-
still, like, up there. That's where you want to hit them. But when you're stumbling
contact.
forward, there's the issue of making that knee go backwards.
Is a
This program is suffering.
initial contact is above the knee.
And if you see, he even pulls up and just kind of like pops Brady.
A passer who runs outside the pocket area.
Here's
loses
here's the big one. All right, and it's not just because it's the Seahawks. All right, you got Mariota out here, and you got Quandre Diggs, and they're rushing to the sideline because Mariota is in a situation where he can either throw the ball. See how he's holding the ball? He's holding it like this, meaning I'm looking downfield, and at any moment I can throw it or I can do a pump fake. Also, I'm running towards the outside, which means I can quickly put it underneath, and I can run and pick up a couple yards. And Diggs is right here watching him.
one step and low.
Now look at him. He drops back and assumes no longer a rushing posture. He is now, once again, in a passing posture. So you can assume a passing posture, go into a rushing posture where you're rushing outside of the pocket, and then go back into a passing posture, and now you're no longer allowed to be touched.
Hit protections. But if the passer stops behind
So he
the
throws
line
the
and
ball
resumes a passing posture, he will be
away.
covered by all the special protections for passers.
He will be covered by all the special protections for passers. So basically what happens is he's running. I'm looking for a guy downfield. As you're about to hit me, as I'm trying to get a first down, I'm going to throw the ball out of bounds, and I'm going to get a roughing the passer penalty and a free set of first downs. Whew! I got through all that. Thank you so much. All of that accumulates to this big fucking problem that the NFL has. The NFL doesn't want to be the NFL. They don't want to be the sport where if you throw to a specific spot on the field, you'll get popped. They don't want their players to learn lessons on the field from mistakes. It's like telling a boxer, don't hit him in the head or we'll penalize you. Don't hit him on that part of the body too hard or we'll penalize you. I see a bruise. I think there's a cut on that dude's chest. We're going to have to suspend you for the rest of the season. Like, you do know what you're selling, right? You know what this sport is, right? And so you see a player put themselves in a position where they're going to get fucking clobbered. And how do they respond? They get rewarded. What? In what world does that make sense? it's supposed to be this kind of tactical game, war-based game almost. And you need to be able to establish threat. If you can't establish threat on the defense, because every time you establish threat on the defense, you'll be penalized out of your fucking shorts, then what are people watching? 7-on-7 with tackling. Is it tackling? They're not allowed to tackle with dragging people down. You have to grab somebody and drag them down, but you can't drop your hip while doing it, because if you do that, you might snap their leg. So you need to go up and you need to get to somebody, and then you need to drag them to the ground, and then before they hit the ground, pull up just a little bit and slowly let them hit the turf, so that they're not harmed or anything, but also let go at the same time and keep your hands apart, because they're like frozen ice cubes on a hot summer's day, just getting ready to melt away. It doesn't make sense. Tom Brady's logic of, yeah, I wouldn't throw the route to certain areas because I wanted my guys to last the rest of the season. But yeah, you wouldn't jump in front of a bus because you don't want to get hit by a fucking bus. Maybe don't throw that ball to Sidney Rice, Russell Wilson, and have him get knocked the fuck out. Sure, we beat the Bears, but a dumbass quarterback makes a dumbass throw to a receiver who probably should have gotten out of the way. It's a dumbass throw. I'm going to call you a dumbass when you do it. If you're making your players injured, it's because you're encouraged to throw it in bad spots. It's like, what? And as we've seen it now with Breece Hall, what? You're not allowed to run at players and get tackled a certain way because they'll penalize you for being tackled too aggressively. Like, oh no, he tried to tackle me and I tried to break it off, but his leg got trapped underneath him. So I'm getting penalized for that because I should have just gone down as soon as he touched me. Like, at that point, let's just do two-hand touch football. They don't want tackle football. They don't want flag football. They want this awkward in-between monstrosity where it's kind of dishonorable. It's difficult to watch sometimes. And how does this affect Pete Carroll? Well, what was his defense? I know exactly what you're going to do because I have this environment that I've established. We got a pillar over here of a cornerback, pillar over here at cornerback. We have a free safety over the middle, roaming the middle and over the top. And we have our strong safety coming over here and watching for the spot shots. Because wherever those spot shots are how you beat cover 3. But you know how you beat those spot shots? You make it so the player doesn't want to catch the ball there by... And then the NFL made it illegal. They made it illegal. You do that now, your player can get ejected, fined over $40,000, and suspended for the season. If you try to run at a cornerback who's been brought in to be a pass coverage guy, and you try to play action and actually run the ball, so the pass rushers have a responsibility then, not to the quarterback, but to themselves and everything around them because they don't know who has the ball. And then you penalize the rusher. Well, then teams are just going to throw the ball all the time because no one's going to want to run the ball. They're just going to go down as soon as they get grabbed because they don't want to get fined every time they run the ball. So then what's going to happen with these pass rushers? They're just going to come at the quarterback and then just be in this awkward situation where, well, I guess it's our responsibility to make sure this guy doesn't get hurt every day. When was that our jobs? It doesn't make sense. And so now Pete Carroll's got this spread system that he's gone to. It's a system that Sean McVay, he's adapted to try to combat Sean McVay. But when you look at Sean McVay's system and all these other systems, why are they so useful? Because they're throwing to the areas of the field where you're not allowed to blow somebody up anymore. He's taking advantage of the fact that, oh, wait, I can throw to Cooper Kupp 15 times in this spot, and he can make that guy miss because now he's going for your shins instead of your thighs and stuff. Because if he wraps around the thighs, it's going to be a penalty. It's so dumb. And so, yeah, defenses are having trouble adjusting because the game literally changed overnight. We're in this weird, like 5 to 7 year period right now where the NFL is having to go back to this running game because they have quarterbacks that suck because they haven't learned any lessons about where not to throw the ball because they can just throw the ball wherever. And then you have these receivers going out making these circus catches. Well, yeah, because they're allowed to. Because if you go out and do something stupid, you should get blown up for it. But defenses aren't allowed to do that anymore. They have to stand there and watch as this guy gets a highlight reel on him. When before, it would be, oh, you're going to try to catch that thing with one hand? You're done. It's a completely different game. So, mediocrity in the NFL, it's so hard to play defense right now. It's so hard to want to play physical on offense right now because you'll just get penalized for it. And so, it's like if you're watching boxing and they're not allowed to hit each other. They're just allowed to jab. They want sparring in the NFL, I guess. Is that what they want? Tag, you're it. Tag, you're it. What is this NFL going to turn into? Because, I mean, this just all the last 10 years have been crazy. Last 20 years have been insane. The fullback position is all but gone. Because a bunch of the heavy weighting type of runs and stuff are all buckled up. Safety players are getting lankier and lankier. When I mean safety, DBs, all cornerbacks and everything, they're all starting to kind of look the same and move around the same with this Vic Fangio system. They got to be interchangeable and move around. And then you got the long towers on the outside. And it's bizarre. So I hope something good comes of it. Because that's what makes football so great, is the adaptation of everything. But, man, it feels like they're trying to take apart literally all of the parts that make the competitive elements of football great. And I brought this up with the coaching and Houshmandzadeh. It's like you have a coach saying, play this way. And then the players are saying, no, that doesn't work. We're playing this way. And the NFL is like, no, we want you to play the way the coaches tell you to play. So now they're being told to play these ways that haven't worked in forever. And we're getting these games that are 70 points and 63 points all over again, despite all of this talent and knowledge on the field. Anyways, thank you for being here. I went through a lot. It wasn't necessarily about the Seahawks until the very end. can see what I'm getting at. I want to see what the future holds. I also want to see how we do against this Titans team tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Please like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. I'll catch you guys around. Oh, no, another fucking penalty. Ah, shit. Nah, I got to restart the whole drive.